The biggest chokehold on any business is the psychology of the leader. Anthony Robbins. DZ Tribe, Josh Thomas, super glad to have you here. Be sure to follow and subscribe on Apple and or Spotify. This podcast is brought to you by Unbreakable Teams. We use a science-backed process to triple your company's productivity without additional costs so you can buy back your time. To learn more about how you can dominate the next 12 months, head over to unbreakableteams.com. Once again, that's unbreakableteams.com. And I want to talk to you about today's guest. Today's guest is Ben Junker. Ben is the co-founder and CEO of Craftsman's Choice, a leading exterior remodeling contractor in Minnesota and one of the highest volume James Hardie siding installers in the United States. In 2021, Ben wrote the book, The Minnesota Homeowner's Guide to Exterior Siding, an Amazon #1 bestseller in the home improvement category. When he's not coaching other contractors or helping people fall in love with their homes again, you can find Ben playing an active role in his community as a minister at his church. Ben, welcome to the Do Zone. Say what's up to the tribe and tell us something you believe is the key to getting stuff done that most people wouldn't think of.
Hey, Josh, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I think one of the keys that I've found is early on recognizing what you're not good at and being able to delegate that to the right person. That just frees you up to do what is the most important thing that you do well, and allows you to help your entire team kind of see that vision and everybody to be able to accomplish more together.
I couldn't agree more. And we were talking about this a little bit before the recording. And don't ask me to swing a hammer, and I won't ask you to build a website.
Right, exactly. The website's a good example. Recognizing that needs to be the hub of your marketing. I think a lot of construction firms recognize that, but they look to try and do it the way that they've done other things, which is just try and learn it themselves and do it themselves. We've been able to partner with the right guy and just follow directions and make sure that he, that we're doing what he says. He's the expert in his field, and we try to be the expert in our field. But we need to partner with good people that know that, so that you can, have your marketing and everything aligned in what you're trying to get done.
Every single time that I have done a DIY outside of my zone of genius, if you will, it has always turned out just a little bit crooked. It's almost right, but not quite. There was That's this right. One time, here, you'll appreciate this, Ben. So I have these paddle boards that you get on the lake, and it's just like this big resin foam board. And one of them is 12 and a half feet long. And it's not very practical to store this thing. And so I built a cabinet and I made all the plans. And I'm not like a super math guy. I'm not like a super construction guy either. And so I went and I got all the 2x4s that I needed. I got all my plans built out. I got my drill. I got my pencil sharpened. I got my screws. And I just built the whole thing. And I had to build it in like two pieces, 2 6.5 foot long, like kind of shells. And then I built them separately and I put it all together. And then I went to connect them. And that's when I realized that the boards that I bought were not straight. When I was done with the entire thing, it was just like all wonky. And I was so mad.
Well, that's, that analogy is great for, like our website. Like a construction guy, what he thinks is going to be great as a website, totally different from, somebody whose expertise is in SEO. And even there's a lot of people that build websites that are pretty and functionally are good, but their bones aren't good and they're not SEO savvy. And so you can put all these resources and everybody thinks they have a great website, but if it's not, the bones behind it aren't good and it's not optimized for what Google wants, then you're just not, you've got a pretty website that nobody can find.
Yeah.
And so that's, one example of recognizing, a construction guy building a website. I can only imagine what it would look like.
Very, very symmetrical, but not necessarily pretty.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And nobody'd be able to find it.
Awesome. And so I'm curious, you've won some awards, you've written a #1 best-selling book. You've probably done more than almost any exterior remodeling company out there. What really drives you to be a leader in this industry?
Well, we started the business. This is our 25th year in business, and just a couple of knuckleheads in an old 1969 F100 when we first started out. But since we got hooked up with James Hardy, the manufacturer of the siding that we do, we've realized that the business is always changing, and luckily that product was new and we were able to grab onto it, but always looking kind of whatever our competitors were doing and trying to stay 3 steps ahead of them and not getting complacent. There's kind of there's really a model as far as remodeling contractors goes, and I don't know why everybody keeps using it, because people grow, they get big, they outpace, they outsell what they can produce, and then they go out of business. But it seems like it's all marketing and sales driven, and they forget that whatever you sell, you've got to install. And so being able to have a system in place to keep up with the sales and marketing has really been key, especially for us coming from the installation background. But always keeping that in mind, that it's great to have your pedal to the floor on sales, but it doesn't do you any good if you can't get it installed, and you're hiring installers that don't know what they're doing. And so customer service drags, and eventually that's what brings a lot of these big remodeling companies down, is they just outpace what they can produce, and they say, oh yeah, we'll worry about getting it installed later. And we've been able to strike that balance.
Well, I mean, but Ben, selling stuff is fun. Installing stuff, that's not fun.
I know it is. It is. And that's where it is. And, and then, everybody looks at that top line revenue number, which to me is, a lot of times just a vanity number. Like how much of that money are you actually keeping at the end of the year? And, if that balance is out of whack, then, you're not going to be able to do some of the things that you want to do.
So, I mean, I think you're underselling yourself as a couple of knuckleheads and an old truck, because you certainly.
No, we totally were.
Not anymore.
At that time. Not anymore. Yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. And so some of the lessons that you've learned here are a balance between sales and delivery, which I think would apply to just about any industry. So talk to me a little bit more about, was there a particular story or a time or an example that you saw that really ingrained that lesson? Either it happened directly to you or to a competitor or somebody in your industry.
Yeah. So in 2014, my business partner at the time wanted a change of pace. He'd been in the business, his entire adult life, and was getting kind of burnt out. And so I bought him out at that time, and he went out to Montana and hiked the hills and did what he did out there. But at that time, that enabled me to kind of reboot the business, and was able to promote one of our project managers into a general manager role, which oversees all production. So that allowed me to kind of just trust him with the day-to-day production, and I could focus on sales and marketing. And a lot of times either the wrong person is in that role, or they don't care as much as somebody needs to in that role, or there's not enough oversight by the owner or somebody else watching what he's doing. But that was a big turning point for us, realizing that we needed a general manager. And since we've added somebody else on his team as we've grown, to just kind of oversee all production. And that's been huge for me to be able to focus on some of the, writing a book about siding and, some of the other marketing efforts that we're currently engaged in.
And so your book about siding, is this a book for a homeowner? Is this a book for a contractor? Or some other third person that I may not be thinking of? Who's the person that should be consuming this book?
So it's mainly geared towards homeowners. It kind of walks them through, like, as you're in the process of looking at siding, what are the questions you need to ask? What's the process look like? What materials should you consider? It's more of a resource for a homeowner who's actively engaged in residing their home, specifically on the remodeling end. We give them out at home shows, and it's downloadable on the website, more as a resource than buying Ben a bigger boat from the proceeds of it.
Yeah, everybody I know that's a published author is not like, cashing big checks for your book.
Yeah, yeah,
It's more about, hey, here is 20 years of knowledge and experience condensed down into a couple of hours worth of reading. Hopefully, hopefully I've done it
yeah.
justice.
Well, and a secondary benefit for us is that being publishing a book on an Amazon, you get a blog post on your About the Author page, which backlinks back to your website, which makes Google think that you're a big deal, which makes them elevate you. And so there's some hidden things there, but it's really good to be able to give out on appointments and at home shows and the state fair and those kinds of things as a marketing tool. And people, with the type of siding we do, this isn't an impulse buy. This is something people research for 4 or 5 years, and we want to be that resource for them during that process, so that our logo's burned into their brain by the time they're actually ready to write the check.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And again, a lot of the things that you're doing and talking about can be transferred to almost any industry. And so what you're saying is, this is a complicated sale. It's a long process for somebody to make a decision on what they ultimately want to do with their home. And your strategy for this is, I want to be the provider of clear information, clear education, so that you know exactly what you need to do if you're going to do this yourself. And by the way, if you want to hit the easy button, we're here for you if you need us.
Right. Yep.
And there's a lot of lessons to be learned from that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that a lot of marketing companies, they promise the sale right away, and then people get frustrated because they don't get the sale right away. But and that might that might work for something that's more of an impulse buy. But if you're going to spend $50,000-$60,000 on a home improvement project, going into somebody's house and trying to walk out of there with the check, when they're not ready for that, it's going to be tough. And I think this creates a better customer experience for us when they've researched us, for a few years, and we've seen them at multiple different events. They've seen our logo, they've gone to our website. It helps to have that whole process go, because we're almost friends by the time they finally end up hiring us.
Yeah, you said a few years. Do people really consume your information and kind of keep their eye on you for that long before they decide to do business?
Yeah. And we at the home shows and the Minnesota State Fair here it's just giant. There's 2 million people that go through there. And so we're introducing the product to people a lot of times. And, they'll come back year after year, say, oh, we're not ready yet, but next year. And then we'll see them, and they'll just walk into the booth and sign up and say, all right, we're ready to do it this year.
Wow.
And so it's nice having that consistency. We're in the same spot at the fair every year. Everybody, knows that we're there, and they stop by and look at the new colors and dream. And then finally they're ready to pull the trigger. And so we're there for them.
That's great. And so that consistency and constantly being in front of them, whether they're ready to buy or not, just want to let you know, just want to remind you we're here. Just want to remind you that there's siding on your house, and at some point you might want to change it. Whenever you're ready, we're here.
Right. And it's nice to have blunt conversations with people, at an event, such as ask them questions like, how much do you think this is going to cost? And if they say 8,000, because people don't know, I mean, they might reside their home one time in their life. I would rather have that conversation with them, on a sunny day in August at the fair than after being out to their house a couple times and putting a proposal together and them saying, oh my gosh, I had no idea this was going to cost this much. And so, the home show people would say that's just a absolute no. You want to get out into the house and, work that sale. But, I think people appreciate knowing some of that information up front rather than going through having 3 siding salesmen into their house and all that time and energy just to figure out that they need to do some more saving before they get ready to do the project.
Well, it's an interesting exercise in understanding sales psychology, and that's one of the things that's very fascinating to me personally. We were hosting an event with a company that I consult for this past weekend, and we sell a very expensive product. It's a coaching product. It's mid 5 figures, kind of similarly priced to what you offer. And I was sitting down and I had a conversation. It was a husband and wife couple, and they were trying to figure out. It's in this very specific niche, and they were trying to figure out if that's the direction they wanted to go. And my response was, I think the two of you need to go and sit down on your own and really talk this out and figure out, is this the direction you want to go, and be really clear about that. We certainly have some help and we have some solutions for you. And then the guy jumps in and he says, well, pitch me. I want to hear your pitch. And I said, I'd love to share this with you, but I'm not entirely sure that this is something that you want or need yet. I think once you find out that you want or need this, then we can have a conversation and then it'll make a lot of sense. And he was like, And so later on, they did follow my advice and they went and had that conversation. And I talked to them the next day and they said, okay, we're ready to go. What do you mean you're ready to go? No, you know what? We talked about it. I appreciate you pushing me back and telling me I needed to get this kind of clarity before I even heard the details. We're ready to sign up. And they signed up. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I helped them create an environment of safety and comfort to say, hey, you know what? I want to help you, but more important than taking your money, I want you to make sure this is the right decision for you. And it sounds like that's kind of how you've been operating as well. Talk to me a little bit more about that, because I think anybody listening to this podcast right now that's running a business needs to either hear this for the first time or get a refresher on it, because first of all, it's so much less stressful on the salesperson. And second of all, it's so much less stressful and more successful for the potential customer. Talk to me a little bit more about that. Let's go deeper.
I think, our consumers are, whatever business you're in, they're changing. I mean, business said the sales business is not what it was 10 years ago. Education is becoming less and less of what you're doing on a sales appointment, because they're able to research online and have a general idea about product and about your business, and so building that trust when you're there and not helping them solve a problem, I think is one of the keys to successful sales in our business, and I'm sure that's consistent in other businesses, across the spectrum. What is the problem? How can I help you solve this problem? And making it feel like it's a partnership in this rather than just selling a product and walking out. One of the things that, as we built into our CRM and our process, our sales guys have touch points during the project. They're not, get the check and then they never see them again. They're required to touch base during the project and then do a final walk around at the end so that they can close that loop, and obviously ask for referrals and those kinds of things. But, people like having that consistent person, the person they gave the check to that sold them this hope and dream, their partner, not just be gone once the check writing stops. And that's tough for salespeople to do, right? Like they're on to the next one. They got that check. Where's the next check at? But we've been able to build up a pretty good referral program where, when they present that, hopefully their next check comes from those referrals, and that helps, the marketing efforts and all those other different things too.
I love it. Makes a ton of sense to me. So let's dig in here. We're going to do the do zone diagnostic. Are you ready?
Sure.
Awesome. So 5 quick questions, rapid fire. First thing that comes to mind. Number 1, what's one thing that you do that keeps you focused on your goals, Ben?
Get up early. Get up early with a clear head, and have some tasks that I've laid out the night before to just do right away, so they're out of the way.
Excellent. And how do you get back on track when you lose that focus?
I think having my go-to task, which is going to the website. Like I can always work on something on the website. I'll do that, and then that kind of keeps me grounded and helps me get back on task.
Nice. And Ben, who is your support group, and how do they keep you accountable?
So I've got a general manager, office manager, and a production manager that we've got a really good relationship with, and 3 little granddaughters that they keep me in check. They're right over my shoulder here.
Nice. I love it. And how do you approach a difficult project that you're not sure how to complete?
Collaborating with my team, getting everybody in there, my team knows that I don't want to hear just, I don't want yes people. I want to hear the nitty gritty, like if there's something I'm doing that's dumb or, off track, let me hear it and let's change course. And so there's real open and honest dialogue between all of us.
Got it. Last question. What's the number 1 pro tip you'd give to someone looking to get more stuff done in less time?
Delegate. I think just concentrate on your strengths and delegate your weaknesses.
Awesome. So what is the title of this book that you have on Amazon, so that those homeowners who are looking at replacing their siding could potentially check that out and learn more?
Minnesota Homeowner's Guide to Exterior Siding.
Minnesota Homeowner's Guide to Exterior Siding. All right.
Yeah, it's probably the most boring book on Amazon, unless you're looking for exterior siding in Minnesota. I actually did have a guy give us a bad review. He's like, this book is more of just a guide for people in Minnesota. Well, yeah, it's in the title, man.
It's in the title. So if you don't live in Minnesota, don't buy this book. Yeah.
It's still a good resource, but there's different weather across the United States and different sidings. That in the Southwest, it's a lot of stucco and brick, and we need something up here in Minnesota that's a little hardier for the elements.
Yeah, makes sense. I was actually speaking with a former podcast guest on this podcast. His name is Daniel Felt, and he lives in Minnesota. And he told me that he went to the gym this morning and it was 17 below. And I'm like, I don't want to know anything about that, man.
Yeah, the high today was 1.
Yeah. So yeah. I'm a Texas boy that just returned from Colombia. And right. So yeah, I'm used to my t-shirt and shorts and tropical weather, and yeah, I don't need to go that far north ever.
But it's a great state to have a home improvement business in, because the weather is so hard on building materials.
Awesome. And so I would imagine that the majority of my audience does not reside in Minnesota. And so for those who don't live in Minnesota, what would be the best way that they could connect with you and you might provide some value to them? And then for those who do live in Minnesota, what would be the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so I think our website is probably best for both. We've really tried to make it a resource as people are not only getting ready for a project, but to look at different homes and some of the looking at before and afters. We've got about 120 individual projects on there. I want to grow that to 500. They have before and afters, have a write-up about them, have some detail shots in there to just kind of get some ideas on what to do on your home. It's all broken down by color, and really a good resource for anybody who's looking to do a home improvement project.
Awesome. And what is that website?
It's craftsmanschoice.com.
Craftsmanschoice.com.
Yep.
Very good. Ben Yunker, everybody, from Craftsman's Choice, craftsmanschoice.com. And one more time, the title of that book, so I don't get it wrong.
The Minnesota Homeowner's Guide to Exterior Siding.
If you're in Minnesota, it's very applicable. If you're not, remember, it's for people in Minnesota.
Right.
Excellent. Ben Yunker, I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing a little bit about how you get stuff done, how you run your business, and especially how you approach sales. I appreciate that. For those of you who are interested in learning more, you can learn more about Ben at craftsmanschoice.com. And then once again, if you want to hear great content like this, be sure to follow and subscribe to the Do Zone podcast on Apple or Spotify. And remember, if you run a small business and you could use a significant boost in productivity this year, for less than it costs to take your team out to lunch, we got your back. Visit unbreakableteams.com to learn more. Until next time, remember, we all have the same 24 hours in a day. What are you going to do with yours?